I like to have them, but it's okay. It's all good.
Now, did you already give this a title on YouTube?
I'm going to do that as soon as it lets me.
Oh, I see.
It says it's redirecting me.
It says its meeting is now streaming live. So
Hold on.
hello, everyone.
Wait a minute.
Okay.
Why do I always have the double sound?
I don't know. You fixed it last time.
I did, but I don't know how. I think because I closed YouTube. But now okay, I'm just going to go back. I'll go back and fix it.
Okay.
Are you there?
I'm here.
Okay. I'll go back and fix
it. Hi, Erin. Happy Friday afternoon.
Hello, my friend. Everyone, episode 2 of the Proverbial Mastermind. We are back.
Masterminds. We are masterminds, plural.
I thought I said that, but okay. We were talking about leaving safety today.
I don't know if that's really what we're talking about, but that's kind of what's been on my mind lately.
Yeah. So let me just fill everybody in. So, we're doing Proverbs 1 verse per day. So
we're finally into book number 2.
Today, we started chapter 2.
Yeah.
So we finished out chapter 1, which had some admonishment in it. If you don't want to listen to me, you're going to toil in your own consequence, friend.
And sleep in that bed.
What I think is so funny about that is, it talks about wisdom as a woman, which we covered last week.
Yeah.
But isn't that just like something a mother would say? Like, all right, well, I know I say that to my kids. Like,
I told you so.
Right. Your decisions have consequences. Your life. It's your life. Yeah. So that's kind of what it's sort of saying. But yet we know that we're never alone because the Lord is so merciful. And even in that, even when we stray and we're like, okay, I'm going to go do it my way, and the consequences come, he's still so willing to bring us back. I think that that's what was really hitting me towards the end of chapter 1 was that he's just still so willing to welcome us back and
generous with his mercy, but generous with wisdom. I mean, I can't tell you how many times I have just failed. I mean, including today, and just this, God, even in, what verse was that? Back in chapter 1, I was talking about, coming to me and I won't. Oh, no, that's in James. James 1:5, is it?
1:5 or 5:1. 1:5.
Is it?
I think so.
Let me look it up real quick. James 1:5, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So if any of you lacks wisdom, you should ask God who gives generously to all without finding fault, and it will be given to you. The New King James Version says, and he will not rebuke you for asking. And so that's like really cool to me because no matter like how much we fail, I mean, I'm 46 years old. And you would think, like, I think sometimes we lie to ourselves and we think that we're supposed to have,
oh my gosh, yes.
Like all this, wisdom, and we're supposed to have it all figured out, and we're not supposed to go and, make the same mistakes over and over again, or, like, shouldn't we be further along than this, And that's not the way that I have found the Lord to work. Thank God. Thank God, because, man, I'd be lost without that. And so what's really cool is, when I asked you, Erin, to join me on this verse by verse Proverbs journey, I didn't really think about that verse in James then, but I just knew like I wanted wisdom because there's so many areas of my life that I just want clarified, that either I want gone or fixed or something. And I'm like, okay, well, the best place to get wisdom is the book of wisdom, which is Proverbs, right? And I'm like, okay, so I really want to meditate on each verse day by day by day by day. And sometimes it feels a little laborious, but I'm still very thankful that, we decided to do it that way. And I'm thankful that you decided to join me on this journey. But anyway, the point is that as I'm reading and as I'm studying, I feel like God is opening these like little tiny gifts of wisdom to me. And some of them are not fun wisdom presents
Mm,
because they're all about me.
yeah. And I think that sometimes we want to, as Christians, only think about God as the giving God and the loving God and the gifting God. And that is all true.
Yeah.
And,
Not
right?
but, and.
Not but, and he is
Mhm.
going to admonish us, and he is going to
Give us wisdom.
give us wisdom.
Right.
Just like you're talking about in hard ways.
Yeah. So, and that's kind of where I'm at right now. And so, and I'm not going to be specific about what it's about, but I have something that I know God is asking me to leave, and it's safety, it's comfort.
Yeah.
And I don't wanna.
Yeah.
That's not true. I want to, but I don't want to.
Mm-hmm.
And so I keep like here, let me just share this with you guys. So I don't know if there's something. Do you have the ability, Erin, if somebody asks questions or makes a comments, to see that so that we can answer and engage with them?
Yeah, I can
Okay.
get on YouTube on my phone and be able to watch and see.
Okay, that would be good if you can do,
Yeah.
because I don't want to miss the opportunity if somebody has a question or.
Yep.
Anyway, so sometimes we remember how we talked about wisdom sings in the streets. It's in this public square singing. It's obvi, right? Okay.
Right.
Sometimes we know there is stuff that is obvious, right? And we know that God is calling our attention to it, but we ignore it. We avoid it. We think, yeah, but it's not a deal breaker. Like, this is fine. I'm okay here. It's complacency to a degree, right?
Right.
And God and Jesus in his ministry on earth never, ever accepted complacency. He turned everybody's life upside down. And I was listening to I feel like I'm going all over the place, but that's okay, because
Okay.
we'll talk about what we need to talk about. But
That's right.
So I feel like I need to say this for somebody who might be watching. I watched a message by Pastor Stephen Furtick a few weeks ago, maybe. And it was really cool because he talked about, there's a difference between having the saving knowledge of Jesus and being eternally, saved, right? And being his disciple, being his follower, being somebody who follows him, because Jesus said, like, leave everything.
Yeah.
And follow me. But how many of us leave everything? I mean,
like everything.
How many of us leave everything? But also, going back to wisdom being obvious, sometimes, if you have even a cursory relationship with God and you pray like, God, fix this, he is going to bring something to mind that you need to do, that you need to get rid of, that you need to leave. He's going to do that. And it's obvious.
Truth.
And we go, oh yeah, but I want you to do this thing. And I know that's not a big deal. I know it's not a deal breaker. I know I'm still yours, whatever, but could you fix this? And he's like, yeah, I will. But I want you to follow me. I want you to give everything. And not because I'm so, brilliant and amazing, which he is, but that's not why he calls us to that, because it's better for us.
Yes. Yeah.
It's better for us. Anyway, so if there's something on your mind that that's obvious to you in your life, that you need to leave, that you need to get out of the comfort zone, even if it's not like really harmful to you or damaging, it might be harmful to us spiritually. And if there's something that's obvious to you, maybe then this message is for you, because it's been for me. There's something obvious to me, and I felt like it's obvious, but today, as I've been reading, I just have a whole new take on it. And it's got me a little worried. Like, am I going to be able to do this? Am I going to be able to not fail? Am I, can I follow through with this?
Mm-hmm.
And that I don't need to answer all of those questions. That's the really cool thing. I don't need to answer all those questions. I can just say, Lord, I'm willing.
Right.
And you just help me get there.
Exactly. And so I have two things on that. First of all, I remember my pastor doing a sermon, and he said, sometimes we're waiting for God to move. And
Mhm.
the question I have is, have you done the last thing he asked you to do?
Mhm. Mhm.
Right? No.
Mhm.
Right.
Mhm.
But I'd love to know what you're reading, because I know you've been doing some reading beyond Proverbs. So what
Yeah.
has been really bringing this up for you?
Oh my goodness. So I've been reading the story about David, and everybody knows, like through the first book of Samuel, and most everybody, even unchurched people, know the story of David and the giant, right? David and Goliath, that he killed that beast with a stone, right?
Right.
Well, that was not David's like heyday. Like that put David on the map, right?
Right.
But there was so much more to David's
So much
life
more.
after
So
that
much more.
it's incredible. But so anyway, he ended up in the king's house, in the king's palace, at King Saul, right? He ended up there, and King Saul was stricken by God with a like mental disorder. I guess he was distraught. He was in despair. And so the only thing that would bring him peace was when David would play the harp for him. Right.
Mm-hmm.
So David played the harp for him. And I promise we're going to get there, but just for those of you that don't know this story. So here's David, and he's like serving at the king's pleasure, right? Like he's making sure that the king has this beautiful music and to listen to. And what would happen is every time David would play the harp, the distressing spirit would be lifted from King Saul, right? Well, then suddenly, because the people started talking about how Saul had killed thousands of people, but David had killed tens of thousands of people, and David was this amazing, person, that Saul started to get a little jealous.
Mm-hmm.
And so then he wanted to kill David. So there's even like these pictures of where David is like playing the harp, and Saul's like, bam, I'm going to shoot this spear at you to pin you against the wall. And, I can see David like ditching the harp and like diving out the door.
Right.
Anyway, he ends up on the lam, right? He's out in the desert, in the wilderness, wherever he is.
Left safety.
Yes, he left safety, which wasn't even safety.
No, I mean, clearly not.
Right. But it was what he knew. But here's where I'm going with that. So at one point, David asks God for wisdom. He says, should I go with my people, like with his people that he had with him? They were on the run with him. Now, the whole time King Saul is looking for him. So, David and his men are like here, there, and everywhere, So he asks God, he said, should I go to this city and rescue these people from the Philistine army? Okay. And I think they were Israelites. I'm not sure. It was in, this is in chapter 23.
In 1 Samuel.
In 1 Samuel, yeah. So he says, okay, should I go down to Keilah or Kyla and protect those people in that city from the armies of the Philistines? And God's like, yeah, you should go there. Well, then David talks to his peeps and he's like, we're going to go there. And they said, we're already on the run here. And you want to go and insert yourself into a situation, put our nose where it doesn't belong. You want us to step out on a ledge and make ourselves feel even more unsafe, So then David, he's like, that's true. I hadn't thought about that. So then he goes back to God and says, hey, here's what's worrying me. Are you sure? And God's like, yes, you need to go, right? So he goes and they save the people, right? And they're resting in this city. Now, they're in this fortified city, right? Like with walls, gates, the whole nine. Well, David is thinking, we should stay here because there's safety here. Mm-hmm. We rescued these people. They kind of owe us something.
Right. They'll protect us.
They'll protect us. And it feels good here because we're in a city. We're not out in the middle of the wide open desert where we can take a spear to the back at any given moment, right? So he asks God and he goes again. It says very specifically that he inquired of the Lord. He went and he asked God again. Okay. That's why we're reading Proverbs, because we want God to give us wisdom, right?
Right. And we
So
need to go ask.
and we need to go ask. And so he asks, and and he says, should I stay here in this city, or will they deliver me to King Saul, who's still looking for him, by the way?
Right. Right.
And God says, get your butt out of there, because they're going to give you up. They're going to give you to Saul. So here's the thing, that when we can feel really, really comfortable, we can even look to the people around us. And when I say comfort, this could be comfort with a relationship. It could be, so a friendship or whatever. I'm not talking marriage here, right? It could be comfort in a relationship, or either a romantic relationship or a friendship. It could be comfort in a business relationship.
Yes.
With somebody who may not ultimately have your best interest, because God told him they're going to hand you over to Saul.
Right.
Right. And so it could be a relationship. It could be a habit. It could be a way of thinking. It could be it could be anything. It could be our job. It could be anything that we feel like this must be right, right? Like it makes sense to us, our human wisdom. It makes sense to us. I'm sure you have a citation for that where God says, in scripture talks about the man's thinking being foolishness,
Of course. Yes.
But we look at God's wisdom as foolishness sometimes. It's like, it's crazy wisdom.
Yeah.
Right. So he called him from this place of comfort, this place of presumed safety.
Yeah.
Right. And this came back to me a while ago. I had said, I write quotes and stuff, but familiar is just that. It's familiar. It's not necessarily safe. And so if there's something in our lives, a relationship, a habit, a way of thinking, whatever it is that is familiar to us, that is just natural to us, but it might not be in our best interests, that's what I'm applying this to in my own life. But here, I'm going to take it one more step further, and then I'm going to shut up for a second. But this gets me like really excited. So he leaves the city, and he then lives with his men in strongholds in the wilderness. Okay. A wilderness sounds like what it is. Like, have you ever heard of wilderness programs? Like people send their kids who like fail to launch there.
Yeah.
Right. Like go rough it. Like you got access to nothing. You're like on God's good humor with regard to provision. So he sends them into the wilderness, and it says that David stayed in strongholds. Mm-hmm. And when I looked that up, a stronghold is a very, very tricky place for an enemy to advance to get to you. It's very difficult to find you there. But guess what? If it's difficult to find you there, it's difficult to get there, and it's difficult to stay in.
Yeah.
So being called out of comfort and safety of whatever that obvious thing is to you, that's what God is calling you away from, because it feels comfortable, because it feels like that old comfy coat that has holes in it, but you love it, right? But it doesn't keep you warm anymore, and it's really not good for you. You have to be willing to do the hard work. See, that's the other thing that God's telling me. It is not easy to follow Jesus.
No.
Like it's not. Like, yes, he is grace and love and mercy and peace, and all the peace that passes understanding and all of those things. But there is a cost.
Yes.
In Matthew, in the book of Matthew, he says, deny yourself. Mm-hmm. So take that thing that you're comfortable with. Stop being comfortable with it. I didn't call you to a life of comfort, right? Deny yourself and follow me. Pick up your cross, carry that burden. No, it's hard. Yes, this is hard. Oh, I don't want to give up that thing. Oh, I don't want to give up that person. Oh, I don't want to give up this path. Oh, I don't want to give up that dream. And follow him, and his wisdom will show you all of the things that you need.
Yeah.
That's where I'm at. Oh, but going back to Proverbs. So, sorry, I'm flipping here. Verse 33 from chapter 1, whoever listens to me
Mhm.
will dwell safely and will be secure without fear of evil. And when I thought about that, and then the verse for today, which is, my son, if you receive my words and treasure my commands within you, which means to take them and hide them
Keep
and
it. Yep.
value them, right? If you listen to that and you receive it, you're right. Like, it's one thing to know wisdom. We talked about that at the beginning. Know
Right.
it. But now we're talking about receiving it.
Yeah.
Receiving it, keeping it. Whoever listens to me will dwell safely without fear of evil. So if he's calling you to get rid of that thing that to you feels safe and comfortable and provides you with some semblance of predictability or whatever it is in your life, then he's promising right there that it looks scary, but you're actually going to be safe and free from evil.
Right. And that safety, because we're identifying with the safety of the thing or the person or the business or the situation.
Yeah.
That his safety doesn't look like that.
No.
And like you said about the strongholds, I love that, because you're right. It's not just that the enemies can't find you. Like, it's harder to get there and it's harder to stay there.
Yes.
But what is that definition of that safety? Right? Like, we think safety is fortified fortress in the town.
Right. The city
versus, the caves that David was living in. But yet God always provided.
Yeah.
God always provided.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So getting to God's safety is work. And man, that doesn't sit well. I don't want to do work.
Yeah. And not because you're not a hard worker. Like, it's a different kind of work. It's the work of, like, acknowledging the surrender and actually taking the step. It's like you said, he can give us the wisdom, but we have to receive it.
Yes.
And we have to hold it. And we have to be able to act from a place of wisdom. And I think what you said earlier, that, it's not easy following Jesus. There's so many ways that it's not easy. And I think, I know for me, when I gave my life to Christ in 2014, I thought, oh, everything's going to be fine. And then I went to my mentor who brought me to Christ. The Velvet Hammer is what I call her in my book.
I love that. The Velvet Hammer.
Oh, hey, Meredith. Meredith Hancock is watching us.
Hi, Meredith.
If you have any questions or comments, let us know. She said, hi, ladies. Love this.
I love that you're here.
I went back to my mentor and I was like, okay, I've checked all the boxes. So now what?
Yeah.
And she's like, no. Following Christ and sanctification is not a checklist.
Right.
It's
it's a process, and that we work out our salvation. We don't earn it.
Yes,
we don't earn it.
Yeah,
we work it out by following that, by asking for wisdom, and then following it. And man, oh man, I've missed so many opportunities in my life to do that.
Of course.
So here I am at 46. It's not too late. Like, it's never too late.
Never.
And this doesn't mean like I'm on a forever, like, yellow brick road wisdom path.
No.
Like, this is where I'm at right now. I'm really, really seeking, and I'm praying that God will hear my heart and hear the fact that this is what I really want from him. And I want the will to do his will.
Yeah.
Because a lot of times I don't have the will to do his will.
Right. And sometimes doing his will, because we are, and I think I can speak for both of us, we're achievers. Like, we're get it done women. We are like, go take the action and make it happen.
Yeah.
And because of that, like, doing his will, sometimes we equate to, I have to do more, and I have to do it, and I have to do it, and I do it. And sometimes in the midst of that, his will is, no, I need you to rest. No, I need you to be in my word. There was a point, I know, for me along my journey where I needed to spend hours a day in the word, which is so counterintuitive to a doer.
Hours?
Well, just even like a couple of hours. Like, it's so counterintuitive, because I'm like, I have stuff to do. And he's like, wisdom, right?
Wisdom,
well, go ahead.
Right.
You
Right.
go do the things that you think you need to do, and let's see how that works for you.
There is something really cool and true about that. Because earlier today, I was just like reading and I just kept reading and then I was rereading. And while I was doing that, I didn't feel like I should be doing something else.
Right.
Do
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Like
Yep.
how many, and so that tells me that I'm dwelling in that place of safety, free
Yes.
from evil. But how many times are we doing something, you know, as women, especially, we're doing something and we're like, feel guilty because we should be doing something else, or I should be doing some revenue generating activities right now, or I should be,
Yes.
doing this instead of serving, or instead of spending time with my friend in conversation over the phone, or whatever it is. But I think that if because wisdom is so obvious, if you get that peace and you don't have that feeling that you should be doing something else, then that's the dwelling in safety, I think, that
Oh, yeah.
God is talking about.
Yeah. The other thing that I think is so critical that you brought up, two things. One is if you look at David's life, like it's not like he became king, like, right? And so here's this future king on the run,
Mhm.
like the craziness of running from Saul and when he was a servant of Saul's and how Saul turned on him and,
Yeah.
all of that. But then the second thing is how he sought him. I mean, listen, David is known and God called him in scripture. It says he is a man after my own heart. But David was not infallible, right? I mean, he committed adultery. And yet, in the midst of all, not only adultery, but, murder.
Hey, can we talk about that for a sec? Because
Yeah.
when I was reading I finished First Samuel and I'm on to Second Samuel now. But man, dude, this is like before Bathsheba. Like,
Oh, yeah.
dude had 6 wives.
Right.
I don't understand that.
Yeah.
Do you have any wisdom about that?
I do not.
I do not. Does anybody else have wisdom about that? Because I still haven't like wrapped my head around that. Like, I know that was like social customs at the time,
Right.
but like
Yeah.
it's social customs in certain cultures now.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't know.
I got nothing on that. I'm just a little confused on that.
Yeah.
I need some wisdom.
Right. We need some wisdom on that one, but definitely not perfect. And yet, in the midst of all of it, seeking God.
Yeah.
On his knees, praying to the, facing east, praying, like constantly seeking.
Yeah.
And yet, still imperfect,
Mm-hmm.
but just reinforcing that we've got to be seeking.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But here's the other thing that I love about there's so many like amazing wisdom filled principles from David's life. So here he took out the arch nemesis of the Israelites, the Philistine Goliath, right?
Yes.
This dude was like taunting them day in, day out.
Constant.
Like, ha, ha, ha,
Right.
I will eat you alive. None of you have anything on me or whatever. That's like in the book. I don't know if you've read Goliath Must Fall by Louis Giglio.
It's been a while, but yeah.
So good. But he talks about like, just to apply that, like Goliath is whatever that thing is that might be that obvious thing to you that you need to get rid of in your life. That's your Goliath, like taunting you, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. So here, going back to the wisdom, God spoke to David and put him in this position, like where David was like, he literally ran. Oh, this is the other parallel. So in the first book of Proverbs,
I love how you make these parallels.
Oh my goodness, it's so exciting.
So good.
Remember how like the whole, like, I don't know, like 10 or 15 verses out of the first book of Proverbs was like, don't lay in wait to shed blood and yada, yada. Like, not doing that. I'm not waiting in late to shed blood. Right. But it talks about, let me find it really, really quickly here. Verse 16 of Proverbs 1, for their feet run to evil and they make haste to shed blood. Okay, that same confidence of resting in security, of doing something that you might, whatever, that same confidence of that it's talking about, there are people running to evil, that root the root Hebrew word there is the same Hebrew word that was used when David ran to kill the giant. So you can run to listen to God's wisdom and live that out and walk that out, or you can run to that thing that feels safe and comfortable to you.
Yeah.
Yes,
right? Yes.
So, but here's the other thing that he did. The king gave him like all of this garb, right? The world's wisdom tells us this is what we need.
Yep.
Let's take this into present day, right? You need a 401k. You need to have the white picket fence. Your kids need to go to the perfect college. You need to have the perfect Instagram, swanky pictures.
Oh yeah.
You need to
the
have
perfect filters.
Everything, right?
Yeah.
You need to have all of this in order to be successful, in order to kill the giant of failure.
Yes.
Okay. David said all of that stuff, that the armor I can't even move in that stuff.
Right.
Can I just take my little pouch with my little stones in it? I'm just going to do that because that's how I feel most comfortable.
Yeah.
And besides, God's doing this, right?
It's his, right?
It's his. And so he took off all of the customs of going to battle. And he just talk about stepping out of safety, leaving safety.
Yes.
But because he did that, he overcame the giant.
Right.
He killed the giant.
Yes.
I was just thinking the other day, talking about Instagram. This is a total like diversion. Give me substance and not swank.
Oh,
please.
Yes.
So that's my new hashtag. Hashtag substance, not swank.
So, it's funny because earlier this year, I knew that I needed to, be more be present, but in the right ways on social media. Yeah. So I partnered up and I hired a social media person, and she does all of my scheduling and whatever. And not all of it. So please know, if you follow me, like, it's me. I've done the writing, but she just helps make sure it's organized. And I was getting, I'm fine going live on Facebook. I have no problem. And then I was learning about stories. Well, then they came out with these reels. And I'm just here to tell you, I ain't doing no reels. It's not my thing. Oh my gosh. It's this thing on Instagram that's like, you can record this reel. It's like a video on Instagram. And then you can put like
a scissor
boxes of content. No, you go.
I don't even want to know.
Anyway, you can do these so it's like I'm dancing to a song, right? You don't hear, I'm not talking. And I'm like pointing and a box comes up and I'm pointing and a box, right? Not me. And somebody said, but who's your audience? And I'm like, not that. Because it's just not like, why do I need to do that, Instagram? But it's like you said, like the world says you got to be here and you got to look like this and you got to do it this way.
Yeah.
And, whatever business you're in, trust me when I'll give you Starbucks. Here's an example. If you're going to buy a Starbucks franchise, you have to do things Starbucks way, right?
Yeah.
Totally get it. And yet.
Or you're not a Starbucks, you're a Dunkin'.
Right. Exactly. We're not even going to have that discussion of Dunkin' versus Starbucks or Coke versus Pepsi. But my point is
Dunkin' and Coke. Sorry.
You could be in Starbucks following their system, but still be you. Still show up with your nose pierced or your blue hair or whatever it is. And so I love the example that you give, that David's like, why do I have to take all this on? This is God's.
Right.
And I'm just going to go with what God gave me to go with.
Yeah. And there's nothing wrong with that. If you feel like God is like, hey, use this tool. Here's this amazing tool available to you.
100%. 100%. So I know that's an aside about the reels. But my point is like, you said this. You were made on purpose for a purpose, and the world needs you.
I did say that, didn't I?
The world needs you as you.
Yeah, as you.
Not me. And as I say in my book, like you got to yield your fruit.
Right. And
I think that's the fascinating thing about, the saints of the Bible. Like they were never perfect people. None of them. If you read any of the stories, they all had issues, just like
it's like it's a prerequisite to be messed up for God to like want to use you.
100%.
Because otherwise, think about this. Otherwise, he can't get glory.
Right.
And that's ultimately, at the very, very end of all of this, every knee will bow, every tongue confess.
Totally.
Right? That's
100%.
ultimately, we're going to be worshiping and giving glory forever.
Yes.
And I don't know why I just like had that picture in my head, but because I can't wrap my mind around forever. That's probably a discussion for another day, but.
Well, it's funny because I was having this conversation with myself the other day. So I'm 52. I'm going to be 53 in a little over a month. And I think I said this last time, and I lost my mom when she was 58. And you were saying earlier, like, I just want everything, like, you just want to know where you're going and what you're doing. Like, shouldn't I know this by now?
Yeah.
And the adventure of following God is that we never do. Mm-hmm. And so I think the older, and it feels unsafe because we think, well, I can't control it. It's not in my box. It doesn't fit the way.
It's not familiar. It's not
familiar.
Yeah.
And it's not supposed to be, because we are not citizens of this. We are citizens of heaven, which is vastly, vastly different. Yeah. And so as I inch up in this age, I'm like, I don't know, God, like, this may be morbid, but like, how much longer do I have to get these things done? And God's like, really? You're worried about like getting these things done or accomplishing these things in your lifetime? Because the world wants us to think that significance is we've impacted millions of people when perhaps we only had to impact the one.
Right.
Right. And well, like David could care less that he slayed 10,000 and Saul only slayed 1,000. Like, that's not what that's really not where he was going or what he was about.
Mm-mm. No, and I mean, that's the other thing, the humility. He killed the arch nemesis and then became the harpist to a mentally deranged king.
Right. Yeah. But perfectly positioned.
For right. And so it's always dwelling in safety. It may not look reasonable. Totally. I always say be deliberate, look reckless, right? Yes, but that's God's way. You're going to look reckless to other people. And it really, the only person that we have a responsibility to listen to is him. And I think it's really striking to me now, after I've been doing some exploration and just really listening and trying to receive wisdom, why Scripture spent so much time in the first book of Proverbs talking about not hanging around the wrong people.
Right. And sometimes those people, like you talked about, like, that is your comfort. They may not be the right people. They may not be the people that are going to go with you to the next level.
Yeah.
But we're so comfortable. I have to be with these people. These are my people.
Yeah.
And sometimes you got to leave that behind.
Yeah. So I guess that's my lesson for me. And if anybody takes that and, feels like that's a good lesson for them too, is, what's the obvious? What wisdom is beckoning in the public square of your mind as you say, God, give me wisdom. What is it? What's there, on the marquee going, this thing is what you need to leave, get rid of, change, whatever it is, and step into the unknown, and into my safety and rest from evil. What's that thing for you? I know what it is for me.
Yeah. Well, and to close that off, I had a conversation with my pastor months ago. It's probably last year. And I said, I know what feels like I was very much where you are. And I was like, I know what God's asking me to let go of. And I'm just really having a hard time with that. And she's like, let me have it. She's like, what are you waiting for? Like, I don't understand why you're talking to me. Like, what is it you want me to tell you? Because what I'm going to tell you is, if you already know, then you better get on it.
Yeah.
So that's my tough love for you, friend.
Well, for me, it's do it. If you know it, do it.
Do it.
Receive it. Hide it. Treasure it. Do it.
That's it.
That's all I got today, my friends.
I love it. Episode 2 of the Proverbial Masterminds.
Thanks for joining.
Melissa, or Meredith, thank you. I said Melissa. I am so sorry. It's Meredith.
Yeah. No, you said Meredith before.
I did, but I commented back because she said it's a strange culture. I never got it either with all the wives. And then I said, right, Melissa? And she's probably like, who are you talking to?
Who is Melissa?
Sorry, Meredith.
This is why we are the proverbial
Proverbial.
masterminds.
It totally fits. So we'll see you guys